Keith Olbermann has become an annoying fucking prick. He's always been a jock sniffer and a nerd. Went to an Ivy League college, was a writer, thinks baseball. He and George Will and their intellectual... He's not as bad as George Will, but anyway. But Olbermann is now, he's not on MSNBC anymore. He's on iHeartRadio and doing a podcast. Or is for iHeartRadio, I don't know what. But you can see him on YouTube now, and he does his same shtick. He literally uses the same audio from his MSNBC show, and he's one of these Democrats who consistently thinks that Republicans will save the United States from Trump. Let me explain. You know, the people that think Lisa Murkowski from my home state of Alaska, or Susan Collins from Maine, which I don't even think she's even a senator anymore. Don't know, don't care. Or Liz Cheney. Remember Liz Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris and how everybody thought that was great, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are these Democrats who really believe that that Republicans are going to stand up to Trump and take him down somehow, or start some sort of impeachment proceeding. I'm not sure what Keith Olbermann really, what his end plan is. What I do know is Keith Olbermann is fucking ridiculous. This man got famous from the Bush administration. He was on MSNBC, and he was a breath of fresh air. But he's such a systemist that he doesn't really care so much about change in the United States. He wants to keep the system and empire going. He just wants Democrats to run things. Olbermann, he needs to be part of the empire so badly, he literally miseducates his viewers by pretending Democrats will soothe it all away. Keith Olbermann is railing about these, and rightly so. The citizen, the United States citizen, or here legally, but he's a citizen, who was detained and deported to El Salvador, it was wrong. But what Keith Olbermann doesn't mention, or he forgets, is extraordinary rendition. You know, during the Bush administration, Keith, when they would pick up, there was a very famous Muslim teacher in Florida that was rounded up and sent to Guantanamo Bay. There are other people who were sent to Guantanamo Bay from the United States to be tortured because they were connected to Al-Qaeda or some kind of bullshit nonsense that the Bush administration doctored and made up. And Obama didn't stop this process. Obama, when he became president, running on, let's close Guantanamo Bay down, never closed Guantanamo Bay, and they still take people to Cuba and torture them with no due process. This has been going on, and it even happened before then we can talk about the Cold War era of people who were silenced and, I mean, there was a lot of shit that has gone down in this country. It's nothing new. What Trump is doing is really not new. It's terrifying. It's horrible, but it's really not new. This is when you're labeled a terrorist or you're labeled something, whether it's correct or not, they take you to a black site. Keith Olbermann has become successful in his life because he became a shill for the liberal empire. That's it. And he is shocked that there's gambling going on in this establishment. He's shocked at how Trump is acting and how he's using the government. He's shocked that he's clutching his pearls. He cannot believe that Trump is so unbelievably off the chain here and so bad that he thinks that Lisa Murkowski is going to start some kind of wave of Republicans going against Trump. I got news for you, Keith. It's not going to happen because it's a two-party system. And that's the problem with Keith. He needs it to be a two-party system for himself to be successful. He lives in a very, very expensive apartment in downtown Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken. He is worth millions and millions of dollars. He has no interest in seeing any real change. What he wants is Democrats to be in charge. He rarely ever says anything about American foreign policy, other than Vladimir Putin's a monster and blah, 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 that shit about Ukraine. He will mention Gaza, but he's not, you can tell he's he rides that line that mainstream people are writing about, well, we don't want to upset Jews. We don't want to upset our bosses. We don't want to upset people that are paying our paychecks. We don't want to upset, all of these rich people that are Jews, that are Zionist Jews that are threatening to defund everything. If you say one word about a genocide going on in Gaza, he usually just talks about Trump's plan for Gaza and how ugly it is but he's not out there really advocating to stop the genocide or stop Zionism or any of that, because he can't. And I don't think he wants it. He is an obnoxious jock sniffer. I mean, that's where he got famous, was reporting on sports. He was one of these guys who never really played sports in school, became he's one of those guys who starts doing play-by-play for his high school hockey team. Like, he's that kind of weirdo. And having been somebody who played sports in high school, the people that surrounded sport, and I didn't play in the lower 48, I played in Alaska, so nobody cared. But you see people, they're like the equipment managers, or these people who can't play the sports, so they try to get as close as they can to jocks, and as close as they can because everyone likes a jock, and so you have Keith Olbermann types who become journalists. I mean, ESPN is absolutely awash in these fucking dorks. Like these fucking guys who they either over-romanticize a sport or are never hypercritical of the sport or the structure or capitalism or anything like that. They report on, they've turned baseball into some kind of godlike thing. Keith Olbermann's the kind of guy who goes to a baseball game and keeps score. And probably because he's a man, he's a writer. So his whole life he talks about journals, and he keeps his journals and all this really weird, it's almost narcissistic. It's very, very narcissistic. Anyway, and during Bush, he was a breath of fresh air. He was holding George Bush. He was pointing out the many, many crimes of the Bush administration, and he was doing a good job. But somewhere along the line, he was always a Democrat. So now he was shilling for the Democratic Party. He is part of the system. He wants to see the duopoly, Republican or Democratic rule, reign. He never criticizes capitalism. He never criticizes anything that's really that would actually be impactual. He just is doing, you know what he's doing? He's doing fear porn for liberals about Trump. That's what he's doing. And Trump has, believe me, there's enough shit Trump's doing. There's enough stuff going on. But Keith Olbermann is playing to his crowd. He is playing to this people who still believe, I'm assuming they're old people, that there's a difference between the Democratic and Republican parties, and that if just we get another Democrat in there, things will be better. And if we can't get Democrats to stick up for Trump, then surely people that are in his own party and need funding from the national party will stick. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's childlike in its thinking. And it's consistently the way he's been for the last since 2016. He praises AOC and Bernie, but doesn't point out that they're not doing anything. They don't even have ideas. They're trying to run for president, both of them. AOC is old enough now, she will be old enough, and she will run for president. Or she will run for some position higher than being a representative from New York. She's a career politician. Bernie Sanders, do we need to say anything about Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders let himself get cucked by a party he's not even a part of. He's an independent. I know he ran for the Democratic, blah, blah. And I like Bernie Sanders. I supported Bernie Sanders, but disappointing. And like I said, Keith Olbermann has no criticisms of empire. He has no criticisms of capitalism. He has no criticisms of American aggressive, disgusting foreign policy. He never advocates for the working classes. He advocates for the Democratic Party. And if we've seen one thing from the Democratic Party, they continue to support Republican agendas. They're not even loyal opposition. They're helping with this. They didn't walk out on his speech. They all call him fascist and he's the biggest threat. And then they all sit at the inauguration together and laugh and tell each other jokes. We're the ones being scammed. And Keith Olbermann, because of access, because of money, because of cocktail parties, I don't fucking know. But he won't ever move past the left and right paradigm in America. He won't ever say both parties suck, we need to move on. And he knows this. He knows that capitalism is what's killing us. He's not an idiot, but he likes the system. The system has made him rich. The system has allowed him to criticize Republican administrations and get paid wealth to do it. And I'm not saying that he isn't a liberal, because he is, but he's an ivory tower liberal. Have you ever seen Keith Olbermann walk? He's not working class. There's nothing working class about that man. He's a nerd with big old women hips. Go look at pictures of Keith Olbermann before he had his makeover on MSNBC, physically. That's Keith Olbermann. The mustache, the black glasses, the nerd. He was a fucking dork. And now, because the Democratic Party loves him, and he's basically everyone, let's listen to Keith Olbermann talk about how bad Trump is. Let's listen to Keith Olbermann say that Lisa Murkowski, a senator from Alaska, a state nobody cares about, is going to somehow, because she's been speaking about how worried she is about Trump. And she's been doing town hall meetings in my former state. I have family that live there. And she's been saying that Trump is a threat. But they always will support his budgets. They'll always support whatever they need to vote for the Republicans to vote for. They'll vote for it. They don't come out and cause major ruckus like AOC said she was going to. The Republicans really don't do that shit. I remember the election not 5 months ago, hearing about how 6 months ago, whatever the fuck it's been, guys, it feels like a lifetime, about how the endorsement of Kamala Harris by Dick Cheney's daughter was a great thing. And it was this great move in bipartisanship. And people like Robert Reich, who's the biggest fraud on the left, the biggest fucking populist fraud that there is Robert Reich. And he said that it would be great. A perfect ticket would involve, before Kamala Harris ran, it was years before, but he wrote an article that the best way to defeat Trump and all of it is to grab Dick Cheney's daughter, Liz, a neoconservative, who hates abortion, who thinks that people should be criminally prosecuted for having abortions, who lost her own primary in Wyoming. Cheney lost by 20-some points in Wyoming. She's not even in the House. She's not even in the House anymore. She's an asshole nightmare. And fucking people are like, yeah, I remember the Democrats. Oh, woohoo. It's the Pritzker thing. When Pritzker gets on stage at the DNC and says, I take it from a real billionaire, and everyone claps. And the obvious thing is, first of all, Bernie Sanders was just on this stage telling us how bad billionaires are and they need to be taxed. And secondly, you're just as bad as Trump because the Pritzker family was rich. He didn't get any money on his own. He inherited money. Penny Pritzker, his sister, was in the Obama administration. The Pritzkers have a special deal with the United States government that they could offshore their money without having to pay taxes on any of it. Look up the Pritzkers. They are not class warriors. You know what the problem is? And it's been the problem with the Democratic Party, and it will continue to be. They are so locked into social issues, and the social issues are really important, but they cannot supersede economic ones. They must be in line with the economic ones. Meaning, intersectionality is not only used for voting, but it's used in class warfare. LGBTQ people, we as working class people, you are working class, you are part of us. I don't want an LGBTQ billionaire and part of a working class party. I have zero need for that. They're not working class. It doesn't matter what gender they chose, or gender they were assigned at birth, or whatever sex they were born. It doesn't matter. Working class is what matters. Poor people are what matter. Human beings are what matter. And guys like Keith Olbermann, this constant bullshitting, another rich guy doing editorials about Donald Trump and doing all this outrage porn for Democrats and liberals. Keith Olbermann is not, number one, I think Keith Olbermann does more damage than he does good at this point. I think all of the good stuff that he did during the Bush administration has pretty much gone to the back burner. And now he's just supporting a two-party system that has left the working class and the poor behind, and it continues to each and every fucking day. And not only them, but their children and their grandchildren's futures. They're stealing it from us. And Keith Olbermann, like he's loyal opposition or some shit. Fuck, Keith Olbermann's a fucking asshole. Thank you for listening.